Let's go.
In police work, when people say that there's that code of silence, it's the truth.
When you speak out against one, you're speaking against them all.
People think it's a brotherhood of law enforcement. Well, there's also the fear of retaliation.
If you're the victim of racism, sexism, if you see corruption, if you see excessive force, keep your big mouth shut or you immediately become a threat. And it's as black and white as police cars that we drive.
This is Fontana Police Department where I worked for 17 years, devoted 17 long years of my life, but yet I was walked out like a common criminal.
So what you do is you let this portion spin in your hand. You would lift your own hand up so you don't end up striking any portion of your body. And you would whip it frontwards and backwards. The things that attracted me to the position of law enforcement was going to the police station with my dad. And that, of course, makes quite an impression on a young man seeing your father in uniform. And my assumption was that anything that law enforcement did was okay, or otherwise they couldn't do it.
We all go back to the Adam 12 TV series, where I would watch as a kid how professional they were. It's a prestigious position where you're honest, you're fair. You're like a hero role.
In my community, there was a time where criminal activity was rampant. Crack cocaine hit the streets and there was a lot of violence. And as I looked around the community, I wanted to make a difference in society.
So this is basically my 18-year career right here. I started in Fontana in 2002 and I was a patrol officer until 2007 when I got promoted to the rank of corporal. My first Employee of the Month award for catching a robbery suspect. They robbed at an ATM. I always had hope and ambition that I'm going to get higher in the organization.
Let's go. Ready? I had 18 years of service with the Fontana Police Department. Good job. Nice catch. Where I was a robbery homicide detective.
This is a case that has shocked the senses of the most veteran investigator.
I enjoy solving cases and, in those 2 a.m. phone calls.
This is my commencement ceremony. I graduated, class of 96.
In 1995, I applied for the Los Angeles Police Department.
I was part of the mobile field force unit.
And in 2000, I decided to get closer to my home. So I looked through the Inland Empire, and the Fontana Police Department seemed like an organization that I could happily work for.
This was my uniform that I wore. Still clean and pressed. When I was working at Fontana, I was called to service to serve in Iraq, and I was decorated. I also served in Afghanistan and was given an award by the Afghan National Police. I came to Fontana to buy the American dream. And my whole dream was one day when I retire from the police department that I would go into city council and possibly make a run for the mayor. I just love Fontana.
Fontana has come a long way. You have people that drive from the LA area to Fontana because they'll get a lot more housing space for their money. And they've only come within the last 20 years. At one time, there was the orange groves. Today, we have a lot of manufacturing taking place. You have Napa auto industry, you have Mercedes-Benz plants here, you have large distribution warehouses that have taken advantage of the vast unused land that's down here. The freight trucks that come and go, sad to say, there's a lot of truckers who transport narcotics, stolen goods. So there was a great need for undercover officers, a great need for officers to work in the community and target that illicit activity. As soon as I signed up with the Fontana Police Department, I started noticing it was different. It was a predominantly Caucasian organization, which I didn't have a problem, but I did notice that the minorities there seemed very stressed and very reserved. As of 2008, you can only see one black officer there, another black officer here. This guy was a recruit, and myself, and that's it. So a total of 3 out of over 200 officers.
It was a culture.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I'm Bro.Nasir. The footage that I was just showing is from a piece called Hate Within the Ranks. It's about the reality of being a black police officer and the hate that they endured while being in the rank and file. See, this evening, I like to talk about the days of the week, not Sunday through Saturday. Yet, the punch drunk Negroes who are in a daze and are weak, these dismissive Negroes who will suggest to us that everything is fake, saying this with no evidence or proof. Some of these Negroes believe everything that they read on social media and the worst about themselves. Could someone put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear? Because I have a few things I need to say about the days of the week. I heard the foolish among us suggest that the Tulsa massacre was actually fake. These Negroes will undermine everything that took place all the way up to today. It's really easy to believe that when you're weak and you don't want to fight, when you don't want to hold the perpetrators of such atrocities accountable, it's easier to just say it's fake. The days of the week look forward to the weekend. The weekend, they're already weak themselves. Now they want to weaken everyone else with their long arguments and no solutions at the end of the conversation. Grown men behaving like school-age children with the most non-pertinent information. My sentiment is, if we can't use the information to suffice ourselves, it's useless. Not even worth discussing. Yet a intellectual mass debater, if he have information that he think no one else has, he begins acting like a jerk, as if he's always known what he knows. No one has always known what they now know. And they get frustrated with people that they are trying to pass on information to. You can have the best information, but if you don't have manners, patience, and decorum, you shouldn't be before our people speaking at all. The best information and the worst manners do not match, because you're running people away with your negative energy, and it lessens your chances of being able to speak to the people. It lessens your chances of teaching them and passing on information to them. Calling them dumb and stupid will not help either. You think with having so much information, people will learn how to handle our people properly. Yet it seems to me that it's not the interest of the so-called master teachers, the chiefs, those who call themselves leaders. It's not in their interest to hold their people so they can teach them. They run them away because they don't know how to treat them. They don't know how to handle them. But some of these people call themselves master teachers. It's impossible for you to be a master teacher unless you had been a master student. Having good manners is not popular. It's inconsistent with the smoke. Having good manners, because it's really dust, in my opinion, not smoke. Yet the ignorant among us think that we can cook with smoke. That is a terminology that's used in this chaos called a community that we're in. They say, let him cook or let her cook. But when it's all said, not done, there's nothing nutritious in the entire pot. Hours of discussion with no solutions. Yet we wonder why we're still in the condition that we're in. I hear people say that this is our land. Some of us will say this is our land, where 9/10 of the law is possession. Until it's in our possession, it's not ours. I know some of us want feel-good moments. If you want feel-good moments, go to some type of sanctuary. But when you're speaking to our people, you're supposed to give them the reality of everything. This land could be ours if we cooperate with each other, pool our resources, and are able to be around each other without disrespecting each other, harming each other, murdering each other. it could be ours. But we have cats undermining everything that ever happened to us, letting the perpetrators of these atrocities off the hook. Now, all you Trumpeteers who stumped for Trump, remember I said it. You'll be crying and complaining in 90 days. All of you will be crying and complaining in 90 days. Remember I said it. I said the same thing to our people when Biden was elected, inaugurated. I told us to simply wait. If you think a politician has anything tangible for our people, after all this time, after everything we've been shown, we still want nearness to our enemies. We still think that a benevolent politician exists, especially in Trump. Do any of us think that Trump would treat us better than he treated Vivek Ramaswamy? That's just a question. After all of that ass Vivek Ramaswamy kissed, dumping for Trump, his ass got the boot. He was stumping for Trump, but he got the boot. American politics does not benefit us. When you see two of your enemies infighting, let them destroy each other. That's what I was saying 4 years ago. We're not supposed to get involved when our enemies are fighting each other. We're supposed to allow them to destroy each other. We didn't seize that opportunity in that moment. We jumped right in and chose a side of a two-headed coin, but we called tails, and they had a two-headed coin. We were sweet-talked. We was acting naive teenage girl being sweet-talked. People fell for it. We were presented with two rotten apples, two rotten pieces of fruits, and we chose. We chose between the two rotten pieces of fruit because someone convinced us that we had to choose. The days of the weak. Looking forward to be weakened. You know, we have been convinced to turn a blind eye to what we've seen in a man. We was convinced of that. Even had some of us believing that the fake assassinations attempts were true. While the ignorant among us would say that what happened to us in the past is fake, but Donald Trump's assassination attempts was real. It's going to be an ill next 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. But it's up to us how we feet in this 3.5, 4 years. It's up to us. If we are looking for a benevolent politician, if you hold your breath, you're going to die. Now, it's a lot of executive orders being signed. And some of them, you know, a lot of our people co-sign. I co-sign a few. But I'm not under no illusion that something's going to happen for us, or something going to be given us to us that we can use. Now, the thing with the bathrooms and the gender thing, I co-sign that. The massive deportation of those who came here illegally, I co-sign that. But it's some certain trick bags that they have up their sleeves. I'm not under no illusion, but some of our people are in a daze, punch drunk. They're in a daze, and they actually have hope in a politician. Instead of us pooling our resources and handling our business as a people, it's as if we're going backwards. It seems to me that we're going backwards, thinking that a politician is going to do something for us. All the people, all the constituents that's in this man's cabinet, all the way up to himself, are unqualified. That office, all the executive boards in government is a cesspool. Everybody is dirty and crooked as hell. It's a cesspool. It lets you know Donald Trump is a criminal. He's a criminal, a convicted criminal with that. And he can actually watch what I seen that happened at the Capitol building, and he can pardon those people who did that. Why? Because they did it on his behalf. I don't put my faith in any politicians, left or right. No politicians. I think when they're infighting and they're going at each other, we're supposed to step back and let it happen. We're not supposed to get involved in that and choose a side, because neither one of them have our best interests at heart. So why would we choose a side? That's like choosing your oppressor. But you let the ignorant among us tell it, they have hope. Something's going to happen positive in the next 3 or 4 years concerning our people. Those who share that sentiment is under an illusion. And I don't know what spearheaded these trumpeters. It's like being the loyal dog that gets hit with a shoe, never taken for walks and kicked by the owner that comes in the house. But the second you call that joker, it still come to you. I don't understand why we have this mentality. We are a large nation inside of a nation. And if we decided to pool our resources and come together, it's $1 trillion just come through our communities. Over $1 trillion. It's a lot of nations that don't have $1 trillion, but it comes through our communities every year. That's enough for us to suffice ourselves if we would do it. But guess what? All I'm saying is wait and see. Those who put their faith in a politician, left or right, those trumpeteers, they're going to be crying in 90 days when they see what this man's really going to do. When he ignored their ass just like Biden did. All politicians are the same. It's impossible for a bird to fly in a different direction when it has the same two wings on its body. Impossible. They do all that not liking each other when they're around us. But these people are constituent. They are constituent. Their executive office, all of them. And their loyalty is with the constituent. Whatever is allocated, we're the last ones to get it, and we are the last ones to get it, whatever's allocated. We should stop allowing people to make us look like a fool. We need to stop that as a people. Because like a entertainer, a politician should be the last person that we put our faith and our trust in. Giving their history, we should be the last people we put our faith in. No one will convince me to put my faith in a politician. You can't convince me. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican or a independent. When I see that you are a politician, I see you as someone that can't be trusted. You are a bloodsucker of the poor if you are a politician. I don't trust none of them. I want to get back to the video. I just wanted to talk to my people. The subtitle of this is Hate Within the Ranks.
Culture shock. I started realizing that, for a community that's, 70% Hispanic, the numbers of the department were really disproportionate.
All the upper management was all white. I was one of the few Mexican-American police officers. I had heard the story of former Mexican-American police officers that worked at Fontana PD and left specifically because of racism. One thing to say about racism, you can't see it, but you can certainly feel it. And I felt it.
There's a lot of history in Fontana that people don't realize. So as we go down on Banana Street, we'll approach the steel mill. This was the bread and butter for many years for Fontana blue-collar workers.
Fontana, a few miles from Los Angeles, is the home of the largest steel mill west of the Mississippi River.
Henry J. Kaiser, now furnishing steel for the sinews of war.
Come 1941, Kaiser Steel Fontana was employing thousands of people to run that steel mill 24/7. So you had a problem with the fact that a lot of the able-bodied men who were working in the steel mills were being drafted to go fight the war.
A mass migration is pouring into the 7 western states, eager to share in the industrial expansion of a region where people want to live.
And a lot of these workers that were brought to Fontana specifically came from the Deep South, very Deep South, where there was, deep-seated racism.
If you Google Fontana, you'll see that one of its nicknames is Funtucky. A lot of minorities were coming into the community and taking steel mill jobs. Black were pushed into the upper areas that closer to the north, away from the center cities of Fontana. My uncle owned property up here, and he warned me that the KKK to burn crosses on his lawn. And he questioned why I would even come to Fontana. And I told him, Unc, that's a thing of the past. Well, it wasn't necessarily that far from the past. One day, I had a call in this area, and I came across a rather large house. And I found out that it was actually the home of the Grand Wizard of the KKK. From what I heard, there would be Klan rallies held in the backyard. Back in the days, they marched up and down downtown Main Street to City Hall. And they attacked quite a few people who came into this community. The shooting of the overpowered and the burning of the black family, those were just severe incidents. There was a culture of white supremacy in Fontana. And I'm here to tell you that some of that old negativity still permeate the halls of Fontana Police Department.
The first eye-opening incident that I really saw something was up was we're sitting there in briefing and they wanted to do a ninja hunt. And I'm like thinking, what the hell's a ninja hunt? Later, I found out a ninja was a derogatory term for African American.
I would be in the locker room getting dressed and I'd hear the word nigger thrown around. And I'd go around and look who it was. And here you have supervisors standing there with an astonished look on their face like we've been caught.
BAMA is it's an acronym. It stands for Black Male Adult. BAFA is a Black Female Adult. And this is stuff that they say on the radio. I got a BAMA running from me southbound on, Sierra. Like it doesn't sound like they're humans.
You could tell that they didn't want nothing to do with the Mexican community. They would make fun of me, saying, "Oh, you're probably into cockfighting. You know what you Mexicans do."
There was a time when I was on patrol, and it's Christmas time, and Fontana's predominantly, you know, Hispanic. So they thought it'd be funny to run a game to impound cars with Christmas trees. And then you'd be ruining the Christmas of undocumented people, which is cruel.
When I achieved the award of Officer of the Year, I was told by several close Caucasian colleagues that they said that they can't believe they gave the award to a nigger. You look at my arrest record and you look at the things that I accomplished, it far surpassed most of my white colleagues. Yet every time a promotion came around, I was skipped over. There was a time where I became intrigued with the symbology that I noticed within the department. Not only was it closely related to neo-Nazi paraphernalia, it was also related to local street gangs that are white supremacists or Hell's Angels. If you look,
Why isn't this brother surprised of what he's seen or what he's heard? There's chiefs of police who are servants. They wear the brass and white shirt, but they're not even in charge. You know, it's like they put some of these brothers and sisters in charge. They allow them to be in charge, though some of them are qualified because they did the job long enough, or, you know, they're just qualified with their credentials. But a lot of times these police chiefs, you see them on the podium cosplaying, knowing that the cop that's charged with something, or the cop did something messed up to somebody, violated somebody's rights, or worse. They know that the cop is wrong, but they'll get up there and defend the cop, conducting business as usual. And it creates the narrative that this department can't be racist because we have a black chief, a black female chief, someone who could potentially give birth to a black man, standing up there cosplaying and not holding a cop accountable for what he or she has done to one of us. You can never rise above the condition of your people. Just because we're allowed to make millions of dollars, you know, being the entertainment for these people, whether we're singing, dancing, punching somebody in the face, kicking somebody in the face, rapping, playing instruments, we were always the damn entertainment for these people. And we're very entertaining people. But just because we're allowed to do that, it doesn't mean that things have changed. Things have not changed. But some of our people seem to think that things have changed. All I'm saying to our people is live. That's all. Live. Wait and see. You think everything is sweet now? You're putting your faith in a politician? Just keep living. You can't trust a politician. We can't. Just keep living.
look closely here at this patch, you'll see the sinister red eyes on this owl, and you'll see the keys depicted here in the skull of this owl. And you'll see RRT, which is supposed to stand for Rapid Response Team. These were Nordic runes. I searched throughout the United States law enforcement databases and throughout the internet. I have never found any agency who utilizes Nordic runes, which are related to white supremacy, for their logos. Officers would actually wear these patches, and they also had this symbol inside the chief's office at one time. This is not a coincidence that we find these same symbols on white supremacists that we find for Fontana Police Department. It shows to an outsider that
The FBI itself said that most police departments across America were infiltrated with white supremacist groups. So this is not surprising that some of these Nazis are in police departments. And most of them, they're Caucasian, and some of them are Hispanic. Some of these Hispanics are just as racist as the white boys because they want to be honorary members of the white supremacist groups. And when they come to the United States, they come to the United States to become white. That's why they put white on the census. They mark their status as white. Some of them want to be white, they want to be down, and they will align themselves with anybody they deem as winning. That's their mentality. That is their mentality.
This agency is sympathetic and believes in the same ideologies as your street white supremacist gang member.
My name is Alan Hosser. I am the founder and chairman of the American Phoenix Project. Some of you know I was one of those guys that was out there at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Yeah! How many of you here know that that was a total false flag staged event? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
1776! Recently, I was made aware that our former deputy chief, Alan Hostetter, was involved in the insurrection at the Capitol.
President Trump must be inaugurated. There must be long prison terms, while execution is the just punishment for the ringleaders of this coup.
I was shocked that any law enforcement officer would have participated in any attack against our country's Capitol building. Not to mention the fact that many officers were hurt and injured in that incident. He's a person that spiraled out into these extremism.
Some of the people who are patriots and speak about the law are the most lawless people there is. They were so upset during the pandemic that they had to obey the same laws that we did. That was their main problem. Having to obey the same laws we had to obey, making it a even plane, being equal. But they'll be the first one that say that every man is created equal, and they use all that, those talking points. But it's not their sentiment. It's not their real sentiment.
His views because of the environment that he was raised in there. Over the course of my career, I started hearing about complaints of use of force and police brutality, in custody deaths. I started hearing about the stomping of the trachea and the crushing of another person's spleen. And 3 people died in a matter of months. I personally witnessed when officers were involved in questionable shootings or violent acts. Instead of them being disciplined, they actually were promoted. Here we are today, and we're starting to see more and more cases arise. Very few have garnered discipline from the administration.
You want to talk about racism? I got a story for you. In 1994, I was
The ignorant among us will say this is fake, undermine the pain and suffering of people and their families. They'll say it's fake, it's a psyops, misusing the word psyops. A psyops don't mean fake. It doesn't mean that it's fake. It's how it affected people psychologically. That's what make it a psyops. It doesn't mean something didn't happen because they call it a psyops. Because they want to affect us psychologically when they show something that really happened over and over again all day, making the people numb and immune to seeing harm being done to their own damn people.
assigned to our crime prevention unit. Myself and another employee from the unit were asked to attend an autopsy of a murder victim by the name of Jimmy Burleson. And Jimmy Burleson was an African-American male, and he had been found behind a Kentucky Fried Chicken. So at one point during the autopsy, there was this technician, and he comes in and he looks at the victim and says, "Hey, did you notice this over here?" And he's pointing, and I'm not sure what he's pointing at. What it ended up being was an eaten drumstick from a piece of chicken. And he goes on to say, wow, looks like even though he was getting stabbed to death, he still managed to hold on to the fried chicken. This technician had just returned from lunch, and he went back and retrieved one of his eaten drumsticks and placed it in his hand. I think he thought we were going to laugh right away, but we had a visceral reaction to it. It was just absolutely horrible. I reported it, but pretty much in the end, the case was corrupt. I don't think anything happened as far as any investigation, and certainly not any, disciplinary action.
When I finally seen the Burleson photo, I was astonished and outraged. I could not believe that any human being would degrade and desecrate a defenseless corpse. The stereotype of black and eating chicken, it's outrageous. The murder has never been solved. And throughout the history of Fontana, how many supervisors, how many people of power knew about this incident and failed to investigate it? To think of the damage that these people were capable of doing under the guise of a badge.
That is exactly why some of them take the job, to inflict pain on people and exercise power over people, because they can care less about the law. They want compliance to what they tell you to do. They want to order people around. They want compliance. They want capitulation. They want acquiescence. That's what these people want when they take this. And they don't even care that it's cameras pointing at them. They thumb their nose at the camera. They don't care. They'll do whatever they do right in front of the camera because they think they're above the law with this, qualified immunity and everything. And they don't stand at the rostrum and say how terrible the cop acted. But if a cop get killed, they stand at the rostrum and say how terrible it is that the cop got killed. But 9 times out of 10, I don't say there's good ones. Show me a good cop. Show me one good one that's running around here now as a cop. Show me one good one. Because if you see a cop violate somebody's rights and break the law and you do nothing about it, how are you a good cop? How are you a good person at all?
Would say, why did you stay? I wasn't going to let rogue cops, racist cops push me away from the job I love, and a good paying job at that. I would rather stay and fight and hope that people around me would join the fight and we could clean up the department. My partner, Andy Anderson, and I started to report the incidents of police misconduct and also racism within the department.
When you approach your police administration as an officer or as any police employee and you expose corruption or this is happening, racism, sexism, any of those things, they immediately resent and kill the messenger. They just don't like whistleblowers, period.
You start going out there and start questioning. Soon, you're going to be labeled as a rat.
Yeah, being labeled as a rat. But they expect people and they interrogate to tell on their homie, but they won't tell on their constituent. A lot of these guys they only know through the job. They met them through the job, and they'll stand idly by while their constituents, their co-workers, break the law and violate people's rights, line people up, set people up, plant drugs on people, falsely arrest people, do physical harm to people, and worse. Yet, when you blow the whistle on one of them, you are considered a rat. When it's departmental policy to report misconduct by a fellow officer. It's on the books, it's in the regulations, but none of them do it. They don't report each other. It barely happens. Whistleblowers are far and few between. Not saying it don't happen, because it does, but they're far and few between. And then their labels are as rats. They're ostracized. They're lined up when they do the right thing. And it is a death wish when you go against fellow cops that break the law. It's a death wish. And they have internal affairs, which is a waste of damn money. Because when the police investigate the police, they find no wrongdoing.
Rat, that's a death wish. And if they want to make it rough on you, they will.
I came to my locker room one day and I noticed somebody broke into my locker. I opened it up and my locker was disheveled. Clearly someone searched my locker. And then I was followed home and surveillance was conducted on my home.
I ended up getting removed from narcotics, and it was for the needs of the department. And there's other justification for it.
The final straw was when my partner, Andy Anderson, and I were falsely accused of misconduct by the Fontana Police Department.
My career was basically done to the point where I would always be an officer. I would never promote. So my dreams of making lieutenant, of making captain, and making positive change were gone. They were dead.
You had city council personnel. I reported it to them. I wrote numerous grievances to them.
So Dave and I had talked, and we said, this needs to stop. They think they could do whatever they want, destroy people's lives, and they're not going to do that to us.
No update on the mediation hearing that we just attended. In 2016, we decided to file a discrimination lawsuit against the Fontana Police Department. In this lawsuit, we outlined the various discriminatory actions and the fact that we were retaliated against and skipped over for promotion. I hoped it would bring change. After I filed the lawsuit, I expected them to back off. But instead, the anger intensified and they wanted to make a statement and an example out of us.
I was already suffering from anxiety disorders and some other issues, like you couldn't sleep and stuff. And I was walked into the captain's office and they told me they were worried about mental well-being. They sent me to the doctor. I was ruled,
They're worried about his mental well-being, and they're the one who's causing their anxiety and the mental anguish by how they was treating him. The police department is nothing but a gang, a large gang. That's what the police department is.
Mentally unfit to be an officer, and I never went back to work another day.
They falsely accused me of violating the department policy by leaving my wife on my insurance until I was completely divorced, and they forced me out.
Won't need that ever again.
This case has been going on 6 years.
Law enforcement investigative material done.
We've lost an exorbitant amount of money, and we have had to downsize into a much smaller house.
You better
recycling. There, he's keeping it. The process of this lawsuit has been excruciatingly tiring, and it caused a tremendous amount of stress on my family. Oh, look at school. He's a big boy. Love you. Yeah. You tired?
Yeah.
Papa's tired too. I can never ever get this case to end. I have to constantly think about it, and I have to constantly revisit pain that was inflicted upon me over the course of my career there.
I didn't set out to be a whistleblower at all. I wanted to fit my career. I had a young daughter and a wife. I don't have a degree. I had no other skills. I'm basically a police officer is what I could do. Going through the termination process gave me anxiety, and I had trouble sleeping. You know, that stress of that every day was very, very hard.
Right now, it's just over our heads. It's just there. It's like at some point we need closure.
I'm not the same person. My wife, she's broken down.
Now, this very thing that's happening to these officers is what made, peace to my brother Kyrie of the Is Public, peace to my brother Milestone Thoughts, peace to Miss Parker. Miss Parker, thanks for tapping in. Again, what these cops are going through right now in this department is what made Chris Dorner snap. This is what made him snap in LA and do what he did a few years ago. You report crooked cops, and instead of them investigating the crooked cops, they go at you. They call you a rat. They ostracize you, and then they retaliate against you. And then when you go to internal affairs side with the road cops. When you see these overly aggressive internal affair cops on TV, that's a bunch of nonsense. Because when they investigate each other, even if it's against a fellow officer who's acting unbecoming of an officer, they turn their back on the victim. They care nothing about a victim, especially if that victim look like us. They could care less. They call it whistleblowers, but nobody is listening to the whistle when it's blown. They turn their back on these victims who are just there to do their job. But this is the type of thing that made Christopher Dorner snap and started taking out fellow cops over there in LA. Because after all he did, going to the military, serving, coming back to LA, becoming a cop, his partner was acting unbecoming of an officer, overly aggressive and abusive. He reported it. Instead of them dealing with the cop that made the department look bad, they ostracized and retaliated against the cop who did the right thing. The police department is nothing but a big gang, and I don't care what they do when they put their hand on that Bible and raise their hand and swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. They can care less about the rights of the people. They could care less. From the police commissioner all the way down to the officer they hired today, they could care less.
And now many times crying that she wants her old husband back. You know, and it actually chokes up sometimes because I know I'm messed up, and I know I'm not who I was, and I miss that person. You know, sometimes you question it, was it even worth it? You know, the mental anxiety and stress that it puts upon.
Also, the number one cause of death of a police officer is not someone else shooting them. It's the stress that's put on them by their constituents and their upper rank officers. That's why they eat their gun. The number one cause of death for a cop is a cop killing his damn self.
Upon you, and it's always be in the back of your head. Once everything's said and done, we want to leave California, and the main reason is I want to get far from Fontana. I'm just afraid I might get stopped one day and evidence or contraband planted in my car, or I don't want to be close to their sphere of influence, to their power. I just want to get away and put that chapter of my life completely behind me.
American policing has a problem with white supremacy, and when it manifests itself, it needs to be dealt with.
Saying this is conservative. The Republicans are the worst violators because they're the ones who are mostly the ones empowering law enforcement.
A lot of people look at you as a cop and they hate the police over the one paintbrush. They hate all law enforcement. We are officers wanting to expose the corruption from within. We have firsthand knowledge. We've experienced it. We've been through it. We've seen it. We've witnessed it. We've been victimized by it. We're doing this to make policing what society wants it to be and what it should be and what people expect.
We are hoping that we'll encourage other people to speak up, but we're also hoping to shed light on the process in which it takes to speak up. I still believe in our country, in our law enforcement, and I believe in our criminal justice system.
Here we see a man who is delusional. If you still believe after receiving no justice, you still believe in injustice system. This is a man who is delusional.
But I cannot give up the fight, and I will not give up the fight.
I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. I didn't want to stay long. This is a spare of the moment stream. But I want to thank my brother Kyrie of the Enemy's Public, my brother on Milestone Thoughts, and sister Miss Parker. I'd like to thank my wife. She's always watching. If you don't have a copy of Fire, get your copy of Fire. Go on Amazon, go to the book section, look for FYRE, Fire. Get yourself a copy. Fire 2, the finale, is well on its way. Meanwhile, here's the trailer promo for Fire.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Join me tomorrow as I will be doing Jigga What, Jigga Boo, Jigga Snoop. I'm going to talk about, the Snoop Dogg, Nelly, Rick Ross, and all those who perform, all those who sell out for the bag, who think they have risen above the condition of our people. Join me tomorrow as I deal with that issue. Until then, this is your brother Nasir, and this is The Enemy's Public. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section. Peace.